sure that Beatrush is facing you, so it's going to lay down this way. And we're going to here. Pretty hard to do this on camera, guys.
So let's get to talking about the Beatrush rear strut tower brace for the 2015 to 2021 Subaru WRX or STI, the V8 chassis. It does go inside the trunk here. It does connect to the rear strut tower points, as you can see on the left side here and the right side. It is an aluminum bar. You got the branding right here. It says Beatrush, and then the sides here are powder coated in their signature gold color on both sides. Basically, the install, what you do is you do take out all your mats and carpeting in the trunk. You basically lift up this flap here, unscrew this bolt here, and then there's one back here as well. Place the bar on top of those bolts on both sides, torque them down at 22.1 foot-pounds, and then you do have a third mounting point here. There's a little black clip that comes with it. You do insert it underneath, and then basically tie this bolt into that clip to make sure that this is snug against the chassis in the trunk of the car. All right, so why did I go with this bar versus its competitors? This bar is a little bit more pricey than its competitors, especially brands like Cusco and Megan Racing and all that. I think I did pay around $250 shipped for this bar. I do think it's well worth it for many reasons, and I'll get into it now. First one, this is aluminum. Pretty strong. It's pretty good quality. The fitment was actually perfect. It laid on top of the bolts perfectly. I didn't have to maneuver anything or fight with anything. Basically, they did lay on the mounting points perfectly. And then also another reason why I chose this bar is that it does not stick up in the trunk. You don't have to cut anything. You don't have to modify anything. It doesn't take up any room in the trunk at all. Basically, once it's installed, you lay your trunk carpet, trunk liner if you have one, and you can't even notice that it's there. I do want to clarify, the only thing you do have to cut and modify with this bar is the styrofoam tray here. It does get in the way. So the styrofoam tray was actually solid from here up to here. It was just one piece. So what I had to actually do is make a cut alongside here, make another cut alongside here to make room for this bar to fit here, because if you didn't do that, you can't fit the bar snugly in the trunk like this. The cuts were not as clean. It was pretty hard to cut styrofoam. I found out the hard way. But I made it happen. Nobody's going to see these jagged cuts here. I don't really care about it. As I mentioned before, with some of the other brand rear strut bars, they do stick up in the trunk and they can actually hinder trunk space. Although some of the brands like Cusco and Mega Racing do stick up about an inch or two, it can still hinder things where, you'll have a little bump in the trunk and you have to put things either behind it or in front of it. Although you can lay things on top of it, it does still reduce trunk space a little bit. This doesn't reduce trunk space at all. Once you put the mats on, which I'll show you later, you can't even tell it's there, except in the driving of the car. I think it looks great, although this is a polished aluminum here. I could have went with a powder coated or matte color. Obviously, polished aluminum does get scratched over time, although nobody's going to see this, so it doesn't really matter. That is the only thing I would change about this bar, is maybe the coloring and the finish. But other than that, nothing else I would change about the bar. It does fit very snug against the car. So no wobbling, nothing gets loose over time. I did check the bolts and the torque a few months after I installed this, and everything still holds up perfectly. All right, now my thoughts on the driving experience after I installed this rear strut bar. So as some of you may know, I actually have the front AEM strut tower bar right here in red, very beautiful in the engine bay here. Once I installed this, it definitely stiffened up the front a lot, to the point where I actually noticed that the back felt pretty loose. And I didn't like that. It really didn't feel neutral at all. When I switch lanes, I feel that the front turns in first, and then there's a delay before the rear turns in. So basically, I knew that I had to get the rear strut tower brace. A lot of people say that it doesn't do anything. I beg to differ. I think it definitely stiffened up the rear a lot. Especially if you have a front bar, you'll notice that you'll feel the rear is more loose. So once I installed this bar, I went for a drive right away. First turn, I noticed it a lot, only due to the fact because I have a front strut bar. And I noticed that now the car feels a lot more neutral. Whenever I switch lanes, the car feels just like one solid piece. It doesn't feel like the back is always catching up to the front. Now, it's not, night and day difference. It's not like a track weapon with the rear strut bar. The difference is not huge, but certainly noticeable. And I think worth the $250, and I'm glad I got this piece. All right, guys, so this is how it looks with the trunk carpet and trunk liner put back into the trunk. Again, you can't even tell that it's in there. Nothing sticks up at all. If I do feel with my hands here, I can feel that the bar is right here, whereas this is a little bit softer, and then it gets a little stiff here, and it gets soft again. So I guess it does stick up maybe like a millimeter or two. Can't even tell. But bar is there. Well worth the money in my opinion. If you guys have any questions, leave them down below, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Anything negative, cause I just wanna hear it out your mouth, yeah. Give me fuel, it's a tool that I use to go ahead and run my mouth, yeah. I take shots, I take loss, I make shots, I miss